Sawadee Krap and welcome here to another episode for the Funkit Pod, Mindful Media and Communication. Today's episode will be talking about a somewhat more serious and pressing issue in my opinion. We're going to talk about unmasking online trolling and cyberbullying. Why? Because it's also unfortunately a big part of communication these days, especially online, right? So welcome dear listeners to once again, maybe somewhat thought-provoking, maybe somewhat controversial episode of the Funkit Pod, Mindful Media and Communication. Today, we will embark on a hopefully somewhat, again, profound exploration of, like I said, the dark underbelly of the internet. We're going to shed some light on the insidious issues of online trolling and cyberbullying. So, to make sure we're all on the same page, right? Online trolling refers to the deliberate act of provoking and harassing others through inflammatory, offensive, or malicious comments and behavior. Cyberbullying then extends beyond trolling, encompassing targeted and usually repeated acts of harassment, intimidation, or humiliation. And so these behaviors, of course, they can have lots of severe psychological and, of course, also emotional impacts on the victims, which then in return lead to decreased self-esteem, anxiety, depression, maybe even self-harm or suicidal ideation. So you can already, I probably hear from my voice that this is probably the most serious topic that we talk about so far, because I mean, if you think about it, we probably all heard of cases, might even know people who suffer from that, right? If we look at a few media theories, what we always do in this podcast, we can look at a theory that we call the disinhibition effect and the social identity model of de-individuation. And this social identity model of de-individuation, if you want to Google it, it's abbreviated SIDE, so you can find more info on that if you want to. If you look at those, and I'll explain in a second, we gain some more insights into the underlying factors that I would say contribute to the prevalence of online trolling and cyberbullying. The first one I mentioned, the disinhibition effect, suggests that anonymity and perceived distance, right? Because you're like far away from each other if you're not in the same room, same space, and so on. So this perceived distance of those online interactions can lead individuals to display behaviors they wouldn't typically exhibit in face-to-face interactions. I think that's what we see with basically all the comments on social media, right? So people are always good behind the keyboard, but of course they probably wouldn't say that to your face. Then the SIDE theory, the SIDE, the social identity model of de-individuation, explains how the loss of personal identity in online environments can actually lead to the adoption of group norms and lead to the amplification of aggressive or negative behavior. So again, if you're in like an online environment and you move in this environment within certain groups, this can lead to you acting like that group. It amplifies aggressive or negative behavior that the group instills. Okay, if a group says, "Oh, this guy sucks, we hate him," you're like, "Yeah, I hate this guy," for example. Okay, so if you understand these theories, they can help us to comprehend the pretty complex dynamic that's at play when it comes to online harassment, because of course it's all very psychological, right? Now the question is, okay, are there any strategies for prevention, intervention, and so on? And well, there might be some more or less effective strategies for preventing and intervening in online trolling and cyberbullying. The most important one is also the least rocket sciencey one, education, right? Education plays, in my opinion, a pivotal role in actually, like, we call it, or we always talk about fostering digital empathy, right? So fostering this digital empathy and promoting like positive online behavior is super important, and education plays a huge part there. And we talked about this in the last episode, right? So I think it's essential to actually integrate like a comprehensive digital literacy program into actual educational curricula, equipping students with the skills to navigate the online world in a responsible manner, because that's what we talk about in this podcast all the time, right? I think these programs should focus on teaching critical thinking, empathy, ethical digital citizenship, and so on. And they should also promote, in my opinion, digital resilience and provide practical guidance how to empower each and every student to recognize and respond effectively to instances of online harassment. Because let's be honest, most of the time, I don't even know how to react to trolling / hate speech or hateful comments. I teach those things, but they put me off, right? Not as much as they used to, but you're like, why are you doing this to me right now? I didn't say anything. Like, what, huh? So then, of course, students have even less experience to handle this. So there needs to be some shape or form of how to, some guidance, right? So that they can see, oh, that's how you handle it. So that's why I think that parents and guardians, not just teachers, because if you teach a thing in school, that's one thing, but we all know that students not always take everything serious that's been taught in school, especially if it's just in a class. It's like, hey, today is digital security day or whatever. Great, but it's just another class. So you should teach it, of course, continuously as part of all this or many subjects, not just one subject, digital literacy, if that makes sense. But that's also why I think that parents and guardians play a crucial role there in addressing online trolling, cyberbullying, and so on, because they have to engage in open and honest conversations with the kids about online behavior. They need to set boundaries, what we had in the previous podcast. They need to encourage, what we called back then, ethical digital citizenship. They can help to create a supportive environment. So you can't just leave it to the teachers, to the school, right? Your kids are in school for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, depending on which country you're in or which school you go to, and then that's it. And you can't just force things down their throats like, hey, you need to behave nice in online. Yes, of course. Right, so it needs to be part of life. That's what I'm saying. And that's where parents and guardians are coming in. Okay? I think this supportive environment is incredibly important. That they feel also they can talk with the parents and the guardians about anything, everything, all the time. And moreover, I think it's also important to raise awareness about legal implications of online harassment and ensure that actually appropriate laws, and regulations are in place to hold offenders accountable. So that, of course, goes down to then the lawmakers, obviously, right? And it's also important to actually enact those laws, because if you enact and enforce this legislation that punishes cyberbullying and so on, a strong message will be sent that such behavior won't be tolerated. Yeah, I had the experience with one of my previous students who got 10 years ago, so got bullied online, and we actually went to the police back then. So she asked us, which was good. She asked us, the professors, for advice and said, hey, profs, I have this problem here. What can we do? And then several of us, went with her to the police, and the police, where we were at this time, said, well, as long as nothing happens, physically we cannot do anything. That's, of course, not the way to go, right? So there needs to be better laws, legislations, obviously. And this only happens if, of course, teachers, educators, but also parents and guardians say, hey, if they speak out and say, we need better rules and regulations, we need a better legislation. And lastly, or not lastly, but then very important point is, of course, also to cultivate digital resilience and having support systems, so to speak, right? So if you build digital resilience, I think that's a very crucial part for every individual to actually navigate the challenges of online trolling and of cyberbullying if it comes to that. Yeah, so we should give some practical strategies to develop resilience and coping mechanisms, I believe. Yeah, so we should educate individuals, students about self-care practices, promote healthy boundaries, encourage them to seek support if it needs to from trusted friends, family, mental health experts, teachers, whatever, right? Also, I think it's important to highlight the importance of, again, fostering those positive online communities. That's what I said in the very beginning, because this will promote inclusivity, and then it sounds cheesy, but everybody's happy. So why not promote kindness and empathy instead of hatred, right? So if this works, then these communities would provide a safe space for individuals to share experiences, seek guidance, receive support, and so on. Yeah, there are, but there should be more initiatives and organizations dedicated to actually combating online harassment, in my opinion, because they do play a vital role in creating this safe online environment. Because they raise awareness, they provide resources for victims, they advocate for policy changes. So it's important to have those initiatives, in my opinion. So I would encourage everyone to get involved, like in supporting and promoting all those ideas, those initiatives, because that's how you can make an impact. Thoughtful pause here on purpose, because I really think it's important. So if you feel like you want to do something, change something, support those initiatives to make an impact. All right, lastly, wrapping things up by one more time highlighting that we need to promote a safer online environment. Yeah, such as those initiatives that I just mentioned. There are initiatives in every country that are doing this. So no matter where you're listening from, you can find those online safety initiatives, online environment, stop cyberbullying, whatever that initiative might be called. Yeah, you can find it there's definitely one in your country. There are several in your country. Because they focus on raising awareness, and they will provide, once again, those resources for the victims that I just said earlier to know how to handle it. They will, and that's what we should be doing too, emphasize the importance of, one more time, empathy, respect, tolerance in all interactions, also online interactions, and then eventually encourage users to actively participate in, and I say it one more time because it's so important, fostering positive digital spaces if you want to. Okay? So we have to amplify those positive voices, got to report abusive content, engage in constructive dialogue. That's how individuals, that's how we can contribute to create an online culture that I think values kindness, inclusivity, and respect. And that's what we want, because that's what makes the online space so awesome, right? All right, so I hope in the last few minutes we were able to unmask a little bit the dark realities of online trolling, cyberbullying. What is it? What does it mean? How does it look like? What theories are related to it? Why is it happening? And what are the impacts? Because if you understand the psychological and sociological factors at play, we might be able to figure out how to implement preventive measures, foster digital resilience, and hopefully promote a safer online environment. And then we will be able to combat all those harmful behaviors, cultivate a more digital landscape that champions more empathy, respect, kindness, all the things I mentioned 1,000 times, because I think it's that important. And so together, I hope we can stand against online negativity and hopefully work towards I want to see like a more compassionate and inclusive like digital society / world. So ending this on a more somber note than usual, but if you've been affected by online trolling or cyberbullying, or if you want to learn more about it, let us know. I mean, if you feel safe enough to let us know, right? I would like share your experiences, because I think sharing is important, because when others see, they're not alone. So share your experiences in the comments if you want to, or just send me an email, funkitpod@gmail.com. No need to mention your name or anything, of course, but I think if we just share our experiences, we can learn from each other. Okay, so let's raise some awareness, support one another, and hopefully drive some positive change in this, as I always say in every podcast, crazy, but also very cool digital sphere. Until then, please do stay safe, take care, we talk soon, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Sawadee Krap.